discussions, and we're going to start this last section with a presentation by Biung Ismahasan. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Second hi to Biung Ismahasan. It is this one. Thanks. Sorry. Thank you, Dhaka to Kaohsiung Jin to Namasha to Bunun, Uninanka, Mihomisan. I spoke my own Bunun languages, and dear my friend, my name is Biung Ismahasan. Is this one? I came from Dhaka Nuwa community, Namasha, in Kaohsiung County in the southern Taiwan. I'm staying with my ancestors in this space to share the beauty of our culture and art. And on the behalf of Taiwanese indigenous people, it is my greatest honor to be here, to be invited to share my culture by OCA, Office for Contemporary Art, Norway, and Dhaka Art Summit. And though distinct from each other in many ways, the various indigenous people in Taiwan share certain customs with one another with Austronesian people in the other part of the world. Over the century, while the more removed indigenous groups have tended to maintain distinctive community, others have blended in with Han Chinese society. And currently, the 16 official recognized indigenous groups are the Amis, Ataya, Bunun, Gavalan, Paiwan, Puyuma, Rukai, Saisha, Sakidaya, Sedek, Sao, Telugu, Yami, or Dawu, La Lua, and Ganaganavu, and Joe. And my father is Bunun tribe, and my mother is Ataya tribe. My grandmother is Ganaganavu tribe. And we spoke 42 different regional languages in Taiwan, and it's totally different. And we have the multicultural in Taiwan. Yep, and as of December 2015, the collective population of these people stood at approximately 546,700 people, and including about 14,500 people who did not identify themselves as belonging to any one group, and 2.33% of the total population of Taiwan. And Amis and the Taiwan and Ataya are the three largest groups in Taiwan. Today I'm going to share my performance curatorial project. It demonstrates the movement of the body and the collective spiritual of ethno-spirituality in indigenous performance and installation art at local, national, and transnational level. It's not only look back to the radical performative art spirit of the 1990s, but also provide an opportunity to engage the audience in important social cultural debate taking place today. And taking the focus on indigenous art power to reflect on, contribute to, and inform the public debate. And I think this is an opportunity for you guys here to show the confidence in programming the challenging world about indigenous art, and particularly indigenous artists from a non-Western country who are largely overviewed in the gallery and the museum exhibition in London and other major art capital. And my exhibition practice, which I worked with these two artists, is highly accessible and thought-provocative due to the social issue it's covered. And the progressive participation is a continuous assimilatory process of performative work, exploring the construction of social, political, personal, and self-identity. And the artists have always seen their work as a tool for social and educational change. They're using ethno-accepted and rhythmical style and methods, and the native curatorial aesthetics to create the power, ambition, and vision, exploring social culture and alcoholic issue and context. And this is by biennial Pulima Art Award and exhibition established by the Indigenous People Cultural Foundation in Taiwan. And this is the first national art award dedicated to indigenous contemporary art. And Pulima in Taiwanese Paiwan tribe languages refer to a person who's superb creativity and outstanding craftsmanship. And Lima, which means hand in many Austronesian languages. Each of the Pulima over the year has not only discovered the artistic energy of emergent artists, but also provide a stage for indigenous artists to demonstrate their artistic competence and potential, and helping them to connect to the international art scene. And the theme of the first edition is faith and its creation in 2012. And the second edition is Urban Tribe in 2014. And third edition in 2016 is Oluma no Alingo, which means home where the spirit dwells in Amis languages. And this is the entrance of the exhibition. I'm inspired by the concept of performing indigeneity as defined by scholars Lower Greenham and Glenn Penny, who laid out the sophisticated treatment of the cross-cultural politics embodied in the productive, but how to define the category indigeneity and create the new aesthetic model to perform indigenous culture and identity. I further explained this point with ideas from them as they consolidate our understanding of how the performative exhibition reinforces performing a consciousness of indigeneity and the hybrid relationship among the homeland and the tribal and the global, while at the same time participating in the decolonial practice of indigenous curatorial study. Don Don Houmwm is what follow. I will address the significance of indigenous and ecological thinking in contemporary curating by focus on a specific performative work of the Telugu Nation artist Don Don Houmwm from Don Don community in Hualien, Eastern Taiwan. And I will pay attention to curatorial strategy relevant to indigenous artistic practice, particularly those related to cultural loss, recovery, and activation. And on the 8th December 2012, the face of the world title, was performed for the opening of the first Pulima Art Award exhibition in Taipei. And Don Don dressed up as a utopia wanderer who interacts with his Aboriginal self in the video installation, not only to create a collective performance arts piece, but also to experience indigenous identity in its many manifestations. And it began with a large, dark, emissive space in which he performed in the symbolic identity of alternative ethnic people, whose body skin was white and who wore the woven clothing designed by himself according to the traditional weaving technique of his Telugu nation. And I'm going to play one short video for you. In this performative context, I think it is evident that Don Don transfers the cultural knowledge into a radical strategies of performative exhibition. And second exhibition, it is curated by Don Don Houmwm, and he is the artist and also the curators. The root of the healing is like the moonlight, revealing everything in the obscure. All indigenous tribes are deeply aware of the magical power of the ritual, but choose to hide it. This work by Don Don is composed of 7 acts that represent the 7 stages of the shamanism initiation ritual in the tribe. Through the theme of ethno-aesthetic practice, this work mainly discusses the traditional culture of the tribe, including the attire, ritual, and worshipping, and consider how the traditional culture and the value of the tribe have changed amidst the influence of the religion belief and materialistic values from the modern society outside the tribe. And in this video installation called Samabo, which means a magician, can connect the spirituality between the tribal people and the ancestor in the Telugu languages, which combine performance, electronic video art, and the serial multi-trace video installation. He performed indigeneity, sorrow, and solitude, exposing hybrid identity. He contributed to the new direction of indigenous performance art through his nuanced aesthetic expression and performed gesture. However, he is escaping the ethnographical trend of neo-avant-garde, including performance and installation art, that react back to the 1960s, in the particular its formalization and emphasis on aesthetic autonomy. I'm going to play the video for you. I'm so sorry about the video with the subtitle is on the YouTube. I cannot play here, and I will read the meaning. The naked body is connected to the spirit that at the source of all the legend, ready to accept all the spiritual guidance. This is Act 1. Second is the bamboo piped shamanic instrument passes through the sticky rice case, symbolizing the reception of the magical power from ancestral spirit. And this act is conducted under the witness of skilled mother who gives blessings to old audience. Third act, cigarette, tribal ritual millet wine, and bitterness. These three must have sacrifice for ceremony for the ancestor, represent for the ancestral spirit are offered. In addition, a two-legged animal sacrifice is offered as the token of the gratitude to all the shamanic ancestor. Okay, and the millet is a symbolic of spiritual power and warding off the evil, like a mother protecting her child. And the video is quite long, and maybe you can see on the YouTube. And okay, my definition and analysis of Don Don Houmwm, Don Don performative curatorial practice seeks to highlight the unity of Taiwanese indigenous curatorial practice as a kind of approach for reclaiming the cultural tradition, asserting sovereignty, and embracing identity-based philosophy. Therefore, this performance of indigenous authority has legal implications that are critical for the maintenance of cultural sovereignty and the kind of self-determination identified by his symbolic sacrifice ceremony act. Okay. And second model is artist from Rukai tribe, Eleng Luluan. She was born in the Haocha community of Rukai Nation in Pingtung County in the southern Taiwan. She studied her exposure to contemporary indigenous art to see a space for her self-determination and self-realization and artistic life in 2002. And when she moved to the Dulan community, we belong to Army's Nation in Taidong of the eastern Taiwan. In 2012, she was invited to attend an artist in residency program in New Caledonia and participate in the joint exhibition Beyond the Boundary, Contemporary Indigenous Art of Taiwan. And as you can see, this series of installation exhibit in 2016 at the third Prima Art Award exhibition at Kaohsiung Museum of Fine Art. It addresses how through material and mixed media culture sculpture in space, she has created the art form of indigenous performative exhibition, which informed three types of indigenous contemporary art, I think, including soft sculpture, tribal environment, and indigenous minimalist installation. And these three pieces, the series of word strapping and elastic cord has a large spatial extent, and this soft sculpture refers to photographed image as in picture with disperting extreme and violent imagery, and learned undertook an experimental practice that miniaturized huge sculpture material into a new form of soft sculpture through the photographic reproduction of print media output through the world of the microscope. Her ambition is to attend an indigenous invented sculpture category and to display her virtual world in an aesthetically organized space. And this word is, the left image in the photograph is called Hunter, echoed three-dimensional soap sculpture, the woven by elastic cord, which were displayed in front of this series of print media graphic work representing an indigenous man-hunting field in the deep forest where our ancestral village was located. And the middle image is demonstrate the indigenous traditional custom of sharing the spoil of the hunter's harvest after 3 days or longer hunt. And the right image is a woman here identifies the tallness and the kindness of indigenous mothers, which related to her woven strapping installation. And tribal women used to prepare the celebration ceremony that welcomed old hunter back home, and then share the animal meat in order to worship our ancestor and the god of the forest for giving us the prayer. I think this series of the virtual world corresponds to the metaphor of forest as hunting territory. And this is the forest, river, water, and mother here. Eleng is true to her statement, quote, "I do not change existing shape, but I arrange them differently in the virtual space to make accessible to others the elegance and simplicity of using elastic cord and the stopping of important structure, and the new design of inventing indigenous minimalism and native invention of installation art in Taiwanese Aboriginal culture." As you can see, this is the landslide stone. Eleng tried to represent the landslide stone in indigenous community. In 2009, this is my own community. We have the severe typhoon Morocco. It's quite famous in 2009. And my community, this is my county. I have the 3 community. This community is just next to my community, and it's destroyed. And and Eleng community located in the Pingtung, the southern part of Taiwan, is also caused by the typhoon. Okay. And the third one is I'm going to presenting my own curatorial practice, and this is my own performance curatorial project, Anti-Alcoholism, which is an experimental performative exhibition that consists of the floor of performance and offsite curatorial creation, in which contemporary dancer engage with the space, audience, and my own conceptual installation, delivering a succession of trajectory along the way. And this curation of immersive participation built upon the sustained commitment to revealing how indigenous performance can be a radical tool to rethink indigenous curatorial practice, use, and aesthetic, positioning such use of the ethno-aesthetic nature of performance and action with effective voicings of the severe issue around alcoholism. And tribal people and children was invited to participate and display the artistic object to explore how the meaning of their life values is constructed. This offsite curation emphasized the existing phenomenon of drinking alcohol across the global indigenous community, and which is oppressive, and the installation world around the continual construction of social culture, personal and self-identity. Okay. I did the first experimental in 2014. I can show you. And why I would like to do this kind of offsite space? There's a story. My father was addicted to alcohol, and he did kidney dialysis for 14 years. And there's a very serious phenomenon of indigenous community in Taiwan, especially for our Taiwanese indigenous health. So that's why I would like to raise the issue of to talk about alcoholism, and also give the thermal of my left kidney using the art form. Yeah. And in 2016, I tried to bring this artwork to the museum space, and I curate this space. And also I invite the dancer to express my concept. After that, the audience will be invited to paint on the canvas about their values of your lives. The exhibition is called From Pink to Darker, which means my father, the color of my father kidney was becoming darker, and I'm so healthy. I'm healthy. So I just remember the doctor took the photo of my left kidney. It represents the pink color. So that's why From Pink to Darker. And I did it the third part in my father's home, and this is my new installation. Why I would like to this transparent object is represent my left kidney, because we used to give the flower to the dead body before closing the clothing, due to the influence of the Christian church. And why this transparent object is exactly positioning to my kidney with my father's body. So that's it. And before programming this curatorial practice, I spent 2 weeks to clean my community tomb, every one of the tomb. I think this is for me, it's a kind of process to communicate with my ancestor, with my sibling, with my children, and with my brother and sister. And also I invite the Aboriginal children to clean with me. That's why I would like to tell them why the people are dying. And also through the process of cleaning the tomb, I think it's quite tough. I think the feeling is quite good, because I can tell the story to my children, what we can learn from the dead people. And this is the image display. This is a participant of my artwork. And also I try to invite a kindergarten children to make my artwork in my guest house. Okay, I'm going to play the 1 minute video for you. This is dead end. It represents when we closing the coffin, we invite audience and our family to give the flower to our dead body. And the second one's going to play. This curatorial practice is curated by me and at Kaohsiung Museum of Fine Art. And the final video, give it to you. And my next plan is going to did it again, and with my elderly people, because most of my villagers critiques my artwork. Yes, but it is a process for me to learn. For Bunun tribe, we don't have dance, so that's why I invite the contemporary dancer. And she's non-indigenous people, but she spent many years to teach our children how to combine how to combine contemporary dancing and our Bunun traditional music. I think it's very beautiful. Because as an indigenous curator and artist, I'm quite lonely in Taiwan because I really want to bring some invention idea or concept to my young generation. So the process of making this kind of art, it can be a power for my future. So, yeah. Okay. What to play? It's quite good, and I'm going to curate the first Taiwanese Indigenous contemporary research-based exhibition in London. I collaborated with Goldsmith and also the small exhibition at the Boring Gallery in London, which is the first Indigenous non-commercial gallery for presenting First Nation Canadian art. In May, I will collaborate with 7 Indigenous artists from Taiwan. And I also would like to bring this issue of alcoholism and compare to the people who drinking alcohol in Britain. Okay, and yeah, I think the process of making this kind of art is for me to establish initiative for indigenous future in Taiwan. And thank you for your listening.
Discussions, and we're going to start this last section with a presentation by Biung Ismahasan. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Second hi to Biung Ismahasan. It is this one. 5600. Sorry. Thank you, Dhaka to Kaohsiung Jin to Namasha to Bunun, Uninan ka Mihomisan. I spoke my own Bunun languages, and dear my friend, my name is Biung Ismahasan. Is this one? I came from Dhaka Nuwa community, Namasha, in Kaohsiung County in the southern Taiwan. I'm staying with my ancestors in this space to share the beauty of our culture and art. And on the behalf of Taiwanese indigenous people, it is my greatest honor to be here, to be invited to share my culture by OCA, Office for Contemporary Art, Norway, and Dhaka Art Summit. And though distinct from each other in many ways, the various indigenous people in Taiwan share certain customs with one another with Austronesian people in other part of the world. Over the century, while the more removed indigenous groups have tended to maintain distinctive community, others have blended in with Han Chinese society. And currently, the 16 official recognized indigenous groups are the Amis, Ataya, Bunun, Gavalan, Paiwan, Puyuma, Rukai, Saisha, Sakidaya, Sedek, Sao, Telugu, Yami, or Dau, La Lua, and Ganaganavu, and Joe. And my father is Bunun tribe, and my mother is Ataya tribe. My grandmother is Ganaganavu tribe. And we spoke 42 different regional languages in Taiwan, and it's totally different. And we have the multicultural in Taiwan. Yep, and as of December 2015, the collective population of these people stood at approximately 546,700 people, and including about 14,500 people who did not identify themselves as belonging to any one group, and 2.33% of the total population of Taiwan. And Amis and the Paiwan and Ataya are the three largest groups in Taiwan. Today I'm going to share my performance curatorial project. It demonstrates the movement of the body and collective spiritual of ethno-spirituality in indigenous performance and installation art at local, national, and transnational level. It's not only look back to the radical performative art spirit of the 1990s, but also provide an opportunity to engage the audience in important social cultural debate taking place today. And taking the focus on indigenous art power to reflect on, contribute to, and inform the public debate. And I think this is an opportunity for you guys here to show the confidence in programming the challenging world about indigenous art, and particularly indigenous artists from a non-Western country who are largely overviewed in the gallery and the museum exhibition in London and other major art capital. And my exhibition practice, which I worked with these two artists, is highly accessible and thought-provoking due to the social issue it's covered. And the progressive participation is a continuous similarly process of performative work, exploring the construction of social, political, personal, and self-identity. And the artists have always seen their work as a tool for social and educational change. They're using ethno-aesthetic and rhythmical style and methods, and the native curatorial aesthetics to create the power ambient and vision, exploring social culture and alcoholic issue and context. And this is the biennial Pulima Art Award and exhibition established by the Indigenous People Cultural Foundation in Taiwan. And this is the first national art award dedicated to indigenous contemporary art. And Pulima in Taiwanese Paiwan tribe languages refer to a person who's superb creativity and outstanding craftsmanship. And Lima, which means hand in many Austronesian languages. Each of the Pulima over the year has not only discovered the artistic energy of emergent artists, but also provide a stage for indigenous artists to demonstrate their artistic competence and potential, and helping them to connect to the international art scene. And the theme of the first edition is faith and its creation in 2012. And the second edition is Urban Tribe in 2014, and third edition in 2016 is Oluma no Alingo, which means home where the spirit dwelt in Amis languages. And this is the entrance of the exhibition. I'm inspired by the concept of performing indigeneity as defined by scholars Lower Greenham and Glenn Pennant, who laid out a sophisticated treatment of the cross-cultural politics embodied in the productive, but how to define the category indigeneity and create the new aesthetic model to perform indigenous culture and identity. I further explain this point with idea from them as they consolidate our understanding of how the performative exhibition reinforces performing a consciousness of indigeneity and the hybrid relationship among the homeland and the tribal and the global, whilst at the same time participating in the decolonial practice of indigenous curatorial study. Okay. Don Don Houmwm is what follow. I will address the significance of indigenous and ecological thinking in contemporary curating by focus on a specific performative work of the Telugu Nation artist Don Don Houmwm from Dongmon community in Hualien, eastern Taiwan. And I will pay attention to curatorial strategy relevant to indigenous artistic practice, particularly those related to cultural loss, recovery, and activation. And on the 8th December 2012, the Face of the World, the world title, was performed for the opening of the first Pulima Art Award exhibition in Taipei. And Don Don dressed up as a utopia wanderer who interacts with his Aboriginal self in the video installation, not only to create a collective performance arts piece, but also to experience indigenous identity in its many manifestations. And it began with a large dark atmosphere space in which he performed in the symbolic identity of alternative ethnic people, whose body skin was white and who wore the woven clothing designed by himself according to the traditional weaving technique of his Telugu nation. And I'm going to play one short video for you. It's quite long.
Many places are contested territories, but such a contested place as Taiwan, I thought it was really amazing how Aboriginal people were reasserting themselves and making their presence felt in the society and in the country. It was really amazing. And thank you for all of that. That's really beautiful. It's contemporary art, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you for your response, and I think I quite like. I'm still thinking about how to define indigeneity of contemporary art. As you say that indigenous art is is art made by indigenous people. And also, I think indigenous art can be a stage or can be a bridge for connecting with non-indigenous people and to express our culture. Yeah.
Thank you for your moving presentation. I found it very moving, and you talk about alcoholism from a very personal perspective, and I have also personally witnessed this around Bangladesh, and wherever you visit indigenous communities, you see this. And I remember writing an article about this in my years, which I included in my recent anthology. And I borrowed the title of a book by a Canadian writer, I think Anastasia Shilpakala. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's called A Poison Stronger Than Love. It's about alcoholism in the Ojibwa community. Anyway, I wrote about it from a very personal perspective because when I came home to Bangladesh, I found one of them, my teachers, school teachers from childhood, succumbing to alcoholism, and also a classmate. What I see around, it's a symptom of a deeper malaise, which is basically powerlessness, hopelessness. And I think this is, thank you for bringing it. Perhaps this is where art can come in and sort of help people dream and have kind of hope for the future, I think, to overcome. And I think it doesn't matter whether it is traditional, non-traditional, but using art to inspire hope, and I think you're doing that. And I think alcohol has a role in many indigenous communities around the world. I mean, traditionally it doesn't come in a destructive form. So I think it's a very tightrope to walk. It can give cathartic effect socially in a sort of ritualistic manner, but when it becomes divorced from those, and I think that goes with art, your consumption, like art as many other, like how you conduct your life. So this is very tricky, and I don't have an answer, but I think definitely I see it's not just about alcoholism, but the general state of powerlessness can definitely be overcome using art. So it's not only to be looked for in spaces like this, museums, but the art of living, I think. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. And I think, according to the research, I'm still finding alternative paper or tests from different indigenous community perspective. Why I would like to do this participation is I always ask him by myself because for our indigenous people in Taiwan, we usually make our millet wine by ourselves, and due to the cultural globalization, our elderly people always forced our children to buy the alcohol and the bottle of alcohol using the money. So this kind of action, I think, is for me to thinking about what is that and what can we criticize that. So I think this is very important for me. Thank you.
I think it's probably true. There's so many colonial histories in which alcohol has been a tool to enforce that colonial structure. And I do know that in Sapmi, and again there are people here who would speak about that better than me, there was a sort of a holy alliance between the church, the merchants, and the colonial powers who acted in a sort of triadic way to suppress that community. Alcohol was used as a way to disempower particularly the male population, to stop the reindeer herding from being able to happen. Then the women would come to the villages and ask for help, and then the priest would come and say, well, religion will help you. Come and join the religion. Mm-hmm. And the cycle therefore began.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Biung. I've been thinking about this a lot as well, and how perhaps, you know, a lot of our work and the things that we think about and talk about in our work is often aligned with activism, as we saw the other day, and resistance. And so I've been thinking a lot about health as a form of resistance also, and what that could look like. And I think what you have been doing is the first iteration or first piece of artwork that actually is presenting that. I've never seen it before, so thank you very much, and it has inspired me to continue this inquiry that's already happening.
Thank you, Megan. And I discovered Megan 2 days ago. We just thinking about to the third collaboration in my exhibition in Taiwan when I submitted my thesis, and I think it's a good collaboration in the future. Yeah, thank you.
I'm just speechless. I just can't gather things what to say. But I have a question actually. Have you actually, is your community not thinking that it's not art or anything as such?
Okay,
How
it's a
is
good
it
question.
accepted in your community, your art, you know, with a new dimension you're adding to it?
Yeah, in our Bunun language, we don't have the word of art. And most of the people, most of our tribal people think that this is the this is a waste of time. but I think I hear from the participant of kindergarten children, one of the boys say that this is very, very beautiful, and I know the day body is becoming very beautiful. This in Bunun languages, and he spoke to me in Bunun language. I thought it's very touching. No, I think the conversation and discussion is more important for collecting their voices based on my project.
I don't respond that much in presentation, though I have a lot of thinking in my mind and whatever my colleagues present. In that sense, in this I can't stop myself to say something. This is not actually questions. This is my personal experience. But traveling different continent in my short life, and having found starting with my hometown. And up to now, through the Scandinavia and now in Australia. That in Geelong when I was very young, and even I was studying in the university back in Dhaka, that I thought that alcoholism is one of the reasons that we lose the land. Before studying, doing research, and because the people of my community, they sell the land. And most of the time they, will alcoholism. So, but then you find the reason actually why our people lose the land.
Shops or anything, they don't drink alcohol. In the white population, 2/3 drink. It's more than 2/3. Drink very heavily, drink lots. It's just that Aboriginal people seem to be arrested more often than white people.
Wanted to add to that also, it's probably more of a comment, and thank you for your presentation. It was wonderful. Alcohol is not a part of the Aboriginal story. Alcohol has affected my family. It has affected our story. It's not our story. Just like sugar and soft drink has affected diabetes and the health of our people. Just like non-Indigenous people that own the majority of the stores in remote communities only selling fried food to our communities and not healthy, fresh food, it has affected the health of their lives, and that's part of the story. But I reject that alcohol is a part of our story as Aboriginal people.
Oh, good.
I just want to continue the praise. And Katya was asking, you know, what's the purpose of us getting together here? And I said that these examples from the local is really important. And I just want to amplify it because you had an emotional moment there, which, thank you, appreciate that. Almost had me in tears because of, you know, alcohol. I don't want to talk about it, but you were also talking about the loneliness of the Taiwanese Indigenous curator. And as fellow curators who also do performance, legally as well, there's something common in our practice I just want to underline a little bit. And one is, when we're working traditionally, we're expressing culture, our cultures. What the contemporary allows us to do, though, is to create a supplement that's absolutely needed. And you just performed a beautiful example on so many levels, so I just want to go through a couple of them. One of them is, we probably, I don't want to speak for all Indigenous people, have ceremonies for this particular situation. There's not a whole lot of us giving our right kidney to our dads who then end up wasting it away, you know? So there's not a ceremony for that. There's an artwork for that. And in seeing that artwork, it makes me think of things that I could do in my community that would celebrate the things of which there isn't a ceremony for. The relationship among men, the relationship with your father, to show that in a public way, in a beautiful way, in an aestheticized way, in an emotional way, is a lesson we need badly. The construction of the Indigenous in the Academy is primarily a feminized project. There isn't a lot of room for masculinity or men in the Academy. There are more women going through, and in my country, I don't know, it might be otherwise, but 80% of the Indigenous people who go to university now are women, not men, because they don't find a place for them. Just, you gave us a little hint of what it can look like, this alternate masculinity. It's just beautiful. And so I want to say this is a superior example, and I know Layuli's work does this too. And other modes of masculinity, other ways that sort of revive tradition, plus it adds something that wasn't always necessarily there, or if it was hidden away through Christianity or other forms of colonization. But it's, again, I want to use that phrase, non-colonial. It has nothing to do with, we don't even have to think through decolonization, and you go right to the point. Here's a better way to live a life, and I want to thank you for the example.
Thank you.
There are very few words to describe what should be said now. I have no words, so please let us all just give a very warm round of applause.